YouTube, LV here. As you can see from the title, today we're going to review another album today. And as always for my videos, this review was requested. It was requested by the YouTube users Julio Lopez, Mimi X IU, and Dazzling Peach. So thank you guys very much for requesting this, and based off this video, I do hope you guys like the opinions I say on this album. Before this album was requested, I did know who Alan was, and I was planning on reviewing this album anyway, because this album does show the musical talent that Alan is capable of. So based off that opinion, I do hope every Alan fan out there will enjoy my opinions I have amongst this album, because this album, like I said before, it does represent Alan in a good light, and I can't wait to express that into this review. The first track is Tenyo, which I believe means goddess in Japanese, and interlude. The album begins with this instrumental interlude, which in my opinion really sets the tone for the entire album. I like how it starts off with Alan's amazing Tibetan wail, because that was not something I expected when I first heard this album. After her vocals cease right here, the album continues on with this more, I want to say, traditional sound here. And it really fascinates me further because I wasn't expecting for it to go in this direction. And just as I thought I couldn't get any more impressed, this nice pop beat drops in right here. And I was really dazzled by that because, again, it shows a more contemporary sound, because although this album dives heavily in the traditional sound, it does showcase its more contemporary sound, which I thought really did bring a modern edge to it. It goes on like this for about 3 minutes, but that's something I don't mind here. This was a very nice way to open up this album because it really invokes this atmosphere of surrealism, which I thought was a nice touch. This right here was Alan's debut single, and I must admit this was quite the single to debut with. I love how this winter ballad here infuses this more very traditional Chinese sound here alongside this lovely piano here until it just increases in sound, and I thought that was a very nice touch for this. Her vocals within the verses are pretty normal. There's nothing too negative to say because I really do like the way she controls her vocals right here. Yet for me, the true highlight of this song mainly consists of the song's chorus, when she follows again with that high Tibetan wail, which we will get right now. I love that part. While I do love that part, I will admit it sometimes is hard for me to place my true feelings on that part, because while she does sound amazing, the wail sometimes sounds a bit alien to me because it's kind of beautiful and annoying at the same time. And while that does sound mean, that's the only way I can truly describe it. Still, despite everything, this was a good continuation of the introduction track, and I will say that it was a very strong debut. It still comes out to be one of the most memorable songs amongst this album. The next track is sorta, which I believe translates into Sky Song. To me, this was a very smart way to introduce this as the next track, since this track is more upbeat more than anything else. This was also the second song released from her 5 monthly singles project. It represents the element of the sky, which was fairly believable to me because the song does possess this more airy atmosphere to it. Of course, like I said before, this song uses both traditional and contemporary influences like the previous tracks. Yet I will admit there's something quite wondrously distant about it, and I really think that it mainly consists of this chorus right here, because I like how the chorus just bursts. It bursts like the winds, and it does make me think of the sky, like I said before. While this may not be Alan's most addictive song, I've definitely grown to appreciate it. The next track is懐かしい未来, Longing Future. This was the first song from her singles project, and it represents the element of earth. One thing I'll say about this track is that it's very heartwarming. It's a peaceful mid-tempo track with this very epic feel to it. And that thought only strengthens all the more when the children's choir are later introduced in this song. I realize I'm speaking too soon about it, but that's where I feel the song gets to its ultimate best right there. Another factor that's interesting to point out about this song is how the entire atmosphere of this tune right here, it makes you think of the element of earth and how vital and important it is to us human beings, which I thought was a very pretty factor about this song, and is one of the reasons why I do sing this song quite often. I like her vocal performance within this song, especially when we reach this part right here, because I feel like it's very soothing, but I will admit, even though I do like it, I will admit her vocals aren't really doing anything too spectacular, but it still was a nice touch, and I do recommend this song. The next track is Hitotsu, which translates into one. I consider this tune to be the most softest ballad amongst this album, since it contains the most traditional influence from the iru, I believe that's what it's called, to the strings. Of course, it can come off as a bit boring, yet I believe that's where the charm lies. Granted, it's not the most memorable track out there, yet it does maintain some quality. To me, her vocal performance is very strong because she doesn't overdo it here. Even during the high notes of this song, I will say that she does use the right amount of control here. I don't know, at least to me. While this isn't my most favorite song, it does designate this lovely atmosphere that does provide this sense of dreaminess that I really do love. The next track is風の手紙, which I believe translates into Letter of the Wind. This has to be another one of my favorite tracks amongst this album. I love how it starts off with this more traditional sound right here because it sounds very tender but very beautiful because you don't know where it's going to go. And that's always been a factor I've always enjoyed with songs, and yet as I thought it was going to stay like this, it just dives into this more aggressive sound right here with this flaring edge to it that I really love. This was also the third release from her singles project, which represents the elements of wind, which again was quite believable since it uses this gorgeous ethereal sound with the string and echo effects as the song keeps going. To me, her vocals are quite memorable in this as well because I like how serene and powerful her vocals sound within the verses and chorus, and that's always been something I really did enjoy about this song. So there's not really nothing I can really say about this song because I do like both the verse and chorus because they do show off the power in her voice, and that's been, like I said, something I did enjoy about this song. The next song is Brave. I feel like this song is one of a kind, you guys. While it is aggressive like the previous track, I feel like it's more heavy amongst the electric guitars and the explosion of other instruments here, which again induces a nice edge, especially when we get right here, because I love that vocal distortion that they put on her voice right there. As always with Alan, her vocal performance is wonderful, yet as I said before, the thing that draws me to this song every time is that distinctive effect that's placed on her vocal. It's like her vocals are auto-tuned right there, but that's something I really didn't mind here because to me, I think that use of that auto-tune was pretty original. I'm not totally sure if I should call this track a dance track or not, but it's pretty close. Either way, it's still an awesome song and I do recommend it. The next track is夢のガーデン, which I believe translates into Dream Garden. This is a track that truly lives up to its name. From the introduction alone, I visualize this garden that's full of butterflies that goes with the flow of its relaxing sound. The music itself is very surreal while containing these lovely elements of peacefulness that sounds quite epic to me. Her vocals aren't doing anything too spectacular here, but needless to say, she does have a nice voice here, so I will admit that. There's not much I can say about this tune since I've already described how I felt about it, because like I said, it's a very serene and very beautiful song, but I feel that's what makes this song memorable. So this is a really good song that I would recommend you guys to listen to. The next track is群青の谷, which I believe translates into Ultramarine Valley. At the time when this single was first released, I'll admit I didn't always harbor the nicest feelings toward it. For a while, I did think that it was dull and boring, but that thought eventually changed the more familiar I got with the Japanese language. While it still isn't my most favorite track, I will say that this has to be her most strongest up-tempo when it comes to both music and vocals. The percussion and strings are very heavy this time around, yet it still conceives this fierce sound to it that I've come to adore very much. I like how she puts everything within this performance here. Although I will admit she could have toned down the wailing here, but otherwise I thought she did a really good job here. So that's all I can say about it. The next track is My Friend. Abandoning those grandos traits her previous songs carried, this song heads into a more of a slow approach. In my opinion, this has to be a pretty mild song that doesn't really do nothing for me, but it does have a nice flow to it, I will admit. I like how it focuses more on this acoustic guitar and Alan's simple vocal performance here. The arrangement's quite pretty, yet as I said, there's nothing really about it that stands out, and it does come off as a little forgettable for me. Yet despite everything, I still really do like this song because it does invoke nice feelings within me, and the lyrics to it are very nice too, so I I can't really say anything too bad about it. If you're more of a simple ballad person, I would say that you would probably like this song. But if you're looking for anything spectacular about this song, you're gonna be a little bit disappointed. But it's still a nice song. The next track is Liberty. This is a piano ballad that consists with the soft bell and percussion here. While I do like the flow of the song, the arrangement itself really isn't all that interesting, and it sounds pretty typical for a ballad. Alan's vocal performance is very nice, but it really didn't stand out at all for me. I'm really glad her team didn't make this into a single, because I do know that it was rumored that this was going to be a single amongst this album, and I'm really glad that they didn't do that because, in my opinion, it doesn't hold enough power to hold my attention, so it's a very forgettable track. There's nothing really good I can say about it. The next track is月がわたし, which I believe translates into I Am the Moon. We finally reach more of the down-tempo tracks amongst this album. While it isn't as epic as her previous ballads, I'll admit that it does maintain some character. As always with Alan, the arrangement dives into this more traditional sound, which I found quite nice about it. I'll admit while this song does have some character, it can come off as a bit average during the verses, but it is pretty, so I can't say anything too bad there because, I don't know, I really like the song despite how bland the verses are here. I apologize if I'm sounding a bit mean here because I really don't mean to, because I really do like this song. It's just I feel with me, when we reach the chorus, that's when I feel that when the song has more life and more structure about it. And it makes it hard for me to point out one particular thing I love about it. Despite the blandness of the verses, like I said before, the chorus is what makes this song stand out and which makes it a gorgeous listen that I'll never get tired of. If there was one song I had to recommend from this artist, it would have to be this one. Seriously. This is one hell of a song, you guys. It was also the 4th single of her monthly singles project, and it represents the element of fire, which I can see quite clearly. While this introduction is prolonged, I do love it. I love how it begins with this mysterious approach, while still at the same time, it sounds inviting because of the beautiful vocals that Alan will later introduce in this song. The arrangement itself is perfect. It creates this dramatic yet rather intense atmosphere based off the flow of the instruments within the background. Yet it doesn't stop there. In my opinion, this song is a builder all the way through because it just keeps building as the song carries to this lovely arrangement of these haunting strings. Yet the crescendos near the chorus right here is what adds even more surrealness to this song. It's just hard for me to talk about this song because I love this song to death. I love the purpose it brings, and I really feel like this song is the epitome of greatness. And then this chorus right here, I remember when I first heard it, I was just, that's what I was like when I first heard this song. It was just, oh my gosh, it's hard to talk about this song because I feel like I'm repeating the same things over and over again about it, so if I do sound that way, I do apologize. Despite all my talking, you guys, I haven't even reached the best part. I'm sorry, I have to skip to that part because we need to hear that part. Every time I reach this bridge right here, and then she releases that epic wail right here, I'm just like, oh my god, every time I hear that part gets to me every time, you guys. This has to be Ellen's best song in my opinion. The amount of effort that was poured into this is absolutely astounding to me. If there was any song that represented Ellen, this would have to be the song. The next track is Megumi No Army, which I believe translates into Rain's Blessing. While I don't rank this song as one of Alan's best ballads, it does make everything on this album come together somehow. This tune was also the 5th and final song amongst her single projects, and it represents the element of water. While I can, to a certain extent, visualize the aspects of water surrounding this ballad, the arrangement itself was rather too flat for me if I had to be honest. I always end up feeling so detached from this song. Yet, as I said before, despite my thoughts about this song, as an album closer, it does come together in terms of sound. Because to me, this is a very forgettable track through and through. Like, every time I hear this, I have to skip it because it's just that boring for me. But like I said before, it does work in terms of closing the album because it becomes the most perfect and most balanced effect amongst this album. so I will say that even though I'm not a big fan of the song. The final track amongst this single is Together, which was a limited track as well. While I can't consider this the final song amongst this album, I still like the fact that it closed the album. One of the things I really like about this song is that this song was written by Alan herself, and I always loved that personal touch with any song. The arrangement here was quite lovely, which made it the most prettiest song amongst this album to me. Of course, like all the previous songs amongst this album, the tone of it reeks in nothing but this traditional sound, with its soft, treble percussion that's just so full of Chinese heritage to me. The song is very slow in nature. I like the way it builds because it makes it more beautiful to grasp. Yet the part that made the song even more special for me is the part where Alan included the part where she speaks Tibetan, I believe, alongside these string instruments here. That was a very soothing touch, and I couldn't agree more that that was a perfect way to end this album. Alan's debut album was an interesting piece of work. I like the fact that she fused the elements of nature together very well here, because in their own way, they do represent the elements of water, fire, earth, and air. And it does bring this harmonious feeling amongst this album that's quite hard to ignore. While it does sound corny as shit, it does make sense when you listen to the album. Everything's just so balanced and precise here. It's hard not to love it. It really is. However, the only problem I have amongst this album is that I feel like the singles amongst this album are more glamorized than the non-single tracks. Don't get me wrong, I do love all these songs amongst this album. It's just like I said before, I feel like the non-singles weren't anything too special, while it was just the singles that really made this album worthwhile, which I did have a problem with. Because we all know Ellen has a nice voice, and I was rather disappointed that she put more effort into the singles rather than the non-singles, because it was just, that just makes it like, what's to look forward to then? Despite everything, it was this album that caused me to adore Alan's persona, her songs, and everything about her. So I can't say anything too bad about it. So that's all I had to say amongst this album. I do hope the YouTube users Julio Lopez, Nini XIU, and Dazzling Peach enjoyed what I had to say amongst this album, because even though I will admit I'm not too in tune with this artist, I will admit this was the album that really made me grow to like her and really made me see the talent that she has. And because of that, I do follow her occasionally from time to time. I will say that. As always in my videos, if anyone has any albums or singles that they would like me to review, just leave it in the comments below and I'll be sure to get to it in the future. Anyway, I guess that's it for now, you guys. I hope to see you guys in the next video. Until then, bye.